Today we're going to learn how to bring your data to life with Microsoft Power BI, a data visualization tool. Okay? Imagine if you're a company, you had over 100 million rows or maybe 2 million rows or maybe even 1 billion rows of data in a spreadsheet. Okay? That would be a lot of data for you to process on your own. Okay? And if you were to take a look at it just by yourself and maybe do some mathematical computations, it would just take you forever to do it. Okay? Therefore, you want to use something known as a business intelligence tool. Okay? What is a business intelligence tool? It's basically a tool which enables you to go from this long spreadsheet of maybe 1 million rows to something more like this, where you get to see some rich visuals which convey some key insights about your business. Okay? So today I'm going to walk you through how to use Microsoft Power BI to go ahead and stay in the know about your business. That means know what's happening within your business, how to use it to spot trends as they happen, and automatically that way you'll be able to go ahead and push your business further using this tool. Okay? And I'm Joshua Kola. I'm a Power BI Pro instructor at DubsTech, as well as the University of Washington iSchool and the Indian School of Management and Entrepreneurship. I've been using Microsoft Power BI to enable multiple businesses for the past 2 years, and I've also been teaching this at various institutions. So welcome to this workshop. Today we're going to focus on how to go from a long spreadsheet like this to something more rich and powerful, which gives you some insights and trends which you could use to empower your business. Okay? So there are tons of business intelligence tools out there. Okay? In fact, there are more than I think 10 or 20 or 10 or 12 out there. Okay? But Microsoft Power BI is the leader in this space. Okay? And this is according to a 2020 Gartner Magic Quadrant report. Okay? And what it shows you is that Microsoft Power BI not only is a leader in this space, it's pretty far, it's like leading by a huge margin, okay? Even as compared to Tableau, which comes in second, you notice there's a huge margin between Tableau and Microsoft when it comes to the capabilities it has, okay? And there's a key reason why I prefer Microsoft Power BI versus any of the other tools out there. First of all, it is a market leader, but more importantly, it's free for anyone to use, okay? They have a desktop app, which is free for you to download on your Windows computer. They also have a web app which you could use with a school education account or with your own company account. It has a low learning curve, which is one of the key reasons I prefer it to Tableau when I want to teach students about business intelligence, because Tableau's interface is extremely overwhelming and can confuse students really easily, whereas Power BI's interface is pretty easy to understand and it's also pretty quick to make some really nice visualizations. Okay? And it also has an open visual marketplace. Okay? This is a key advantage, I think, because imagine you were using Safari. Safari, until recently, you couldn't even install plugins. But on Chrome, you could install multiple third-party plugins, which just made your Chrome browser into a beast. Think of Power BI the same way. You can import visuals not just made by Microsoft, but also visualizations made by other people, and you could repurpose it for your own website or for your own company's sales reports, okay, or business intelligence reports in general. And it has a web app. So you don't necessarily have to always have a Windows computer. You could also be using a Macintosh, okay, like the one which I'm using right now, and open up their Power BI online service where you can do almost everything you could do in the desktop app apart from maybe doing some data cleaning and data wrangling. And last but not the least, I think this is also another really important thing, is that it has a dedicated mobile app via which you can preview dashboards and get to know how your business is doing. So while you're on the go, maybe you're in a cab or maybe on your way to work in the train, you can just open up the mobile app and get to see your sales reports live rather than having to go into your laptop and then open it up. So it kind of saves you time in that way. And this is just my personal opinion. Okay, you may share a different opinion to me. That's completely fine. I just want to share why I prefer Power BI and why I'm going to be teaching it to you today. So what can you make in Power BI? Well, the possibilities are endless. Okay, you could start off with maybe making a sales report for a skateboard store you owned and try and get a forecast to see what your sales would be if maybe you reduce the amount of skateboards which got returned. So maybe you want to focus your efforts on reducing the total number of skateboards which get returned, and you want to see how that would potentially impact your sales overall. You could make a report which allows you to do that. Or you could focus on maybe just getting an understanding of what the current COVID-19 situation is in the United States of America and see which states are being impacted the most versus which states are not being impacted as badly as New York, for example. Okay? Or you could go ahead and make a report which allows you to see the key influencers in your sales for a business and also allows you to see your total number of sales with respect to the different countries you're selling your products in, as well as with respect to the most popular brands as well. Or you could go ahead and maybe create a report which allows you to see your sales from maybe a small grocery store you own and see when do you have the most amount of sales with respect to the time of day, or get to see where do you earn more money. Is it via cash transactions or via mag card transactions? So basically like the credit card transactions that you may be having in your organization spreadsheet. Or you could even go ahead and make an HR report where you're trying to see how your new hires are performing with respect to your old hires, and also get to see how many hires are being let go. Okay, so the opportunities are endless, and today we are going to make a report ourselves. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use Power BI to make a report which is for a fashion retail startup. So it's going to be a fashion retail sales business intelligence report. Okay, and we have data for the startup from the time period of Jan 2014 all the way up to August 2014. And we are going to basically take their extremely long spreadsheet and convert it into some rich visualizations which allow them to understand their business better. And we're not going to focus on all aspects on the business. We're going to just focus on one particular aspect, which is the district managers, okay? And we are basically going to go ahead and make a report page where you can go ahead and see your district managers. You can go ahead and select a district manager. Let's say you select Alan Guinot, okay? You can say how they're performing for this year, so you can see their total sales this year, the total number of units they've been selling and how much they've earned from it, as well as get to see their gross margin this year, as well as see how much the percentage has been with respect to the gross margin. And you can also get to see the stores on a map. Okay, so you can see all the different stores they're handling, and you can see the total sales for each store because that's indicated by the size of the circle. And you can also go ahead and maybe get to see what their sales have been and whether they've actually been meeting the sales goal for the year as well. So we're going to go ahead and learn how to make this in Power BI. And it should take us approximately, I would say, 45 minutes to an hour to do this. So I would say keep this amount of time on your side. And if you want to, you can even watch this at maybe 1.5x speed, and you should still be able to follow along with what I'm saying. Okay? And go ahead and open your browser and now go to powerbi.microsoft.com. Okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and take you to this website. It's powerbi.microsoft.com. Just open up a new tab in your browser and go to this website. I've also put a link to this in the description, so if you don't want to go ahead and type it in, you can just go to the description and copy it. So as soon as you come to powerbi.microsoft.com, you'll be greeted by this homepage. Okay. Currently, this has a homepage of this woman who is looking at us, and it says "Find clarity when you need it the most." This tends to change with time. They keep changing the landing page every I would say 2 to 3 weeks. So if you're watching this maybe 2 to 3 weeks later, it may not look exactly the same. But ensure you're on this domain, which is powerbi.microsoft.com. Okay? Now, the next thing you want to do after this is pay close attention to the top right-hand corner. Okay? In the top right-hand corner, you'll notice you have 3 options, which is sign in, try free, and buy now. Okay? Today, we are going to go ahead and use the free version of Microsoft Power BI. And we're going to use the free version for people who want to use the Power BI online service. Okay, so whoever wants to use the Power BI online service will need to go ahead and use the option called sign in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on sign in, and it's going to load up a page, and it's going to ask me to sign in with my account. Now, I recommend using an education account. So if it asks you to create a new account, use an education account or a company address. So a company address would basically read something like this, such as joshua@pathrise.com. And an education account would usually have a .edu at the end of it. So maybe like you could say joshua@uw.edu. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my DubsTech account. So DubsTech is a small RSO at the University of Washington which teaches workshops, and I'm creating this video for them. So I'm just going to go ahead and select this account. And as soon as I click on it, it will say it's taking me to my organization sign-in page, and it should take approximately, I would say, 2 to 3 minutes to load. Okay, or even it may just not 2 to 3 minutes. It may just take 2 to 3 seconds to load. Sorry. So it's logging me in. Give it a minute. Yes, I want to stay signed in, and now we should be into Microsoft Power BI. Okay. So I've logged into Microsoft Power BI. Okay, at the moment, you'll notice that my home screen is slightly more busy than maybe how your home screen looks. That's completely fine. Okay, this is because I made multiple reports in this already just for practice before I teach you. And don't worry too much about it. I'll actually teach you how to create one report, and then after this workshop, hopefully you'll make multiple reports on your own as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and explain to you this interface of Microsoft Power BI. So in the left panel, okay, so this left panel on the side, you'll notice you have this small menu bar icon. I'm just going to click on it just so that we can get to see each section's name. So you have home, favorites, recent, apps, workspaces, my workspace, and right at the bottom you have an option called get data. Okay, rather than getting started with these pages right at the top, I'm going to go ahead and get started with this last option called get data. So pay attention to the bottom left hand corner of your screen. You'll notice there's a button called get data. Okay, so click on this button called get data, and it's going to load up a page for you which basically allows you to import data into Power BI. Okay, now why is it important for you to import data into Power BI? Because without data you cannot make any visualizations, you cannot make any reports or any dashboards. Okay, so you need some form of data to get started with. Okay, and most likely this is the first time you're opening up Power BI, so you would need to get data into your website. Oh, sorry, not into your website, into your own Power BI account. Okay, and there are 4 ways you can do this. You can go ahead and import data from within your organization. So if you're in the University of Washington, your domain says .uw.edu. So that's basically, you can access all data which is accessible to people within that UW organization, okay? Or you could potentially connect to a service, okay? So for example, let's say you have Adobe Analytics mobile app plugin inside of your website or inside of your mobile app. You want to collect that data and import it into Power BI. You could do that, okay? So you click on get and you connect to a service which is basically an API such as Adobe Analytics API, or you could even connect to a GitHub API and so on. We won't be discussing that today. We'll be discussing something a bit more simple, okay, which is how to connect to a sample data set which is already on Power BI's website, okay? And for those who want to know how to connect to the other data sources such as files and databases, files is basically something which allows you to upload your CSV files or Excel files onto Power BI. So if you have a CSV file or if you have an Excel file, you can just go ahead and click on get and you can upload it, okay? And if you want to go ahead and connect to a database, that means an Azure SQL database, you can do that as well if you click on this get button. I'm going to focus instead on using a sample data set. So to use a sample data set, pay close attention to the bottom, right below the My Organization card, like just below it. You'll notice right here there's an option called samples. Okay, so right below My Organization, there's an option called samples. I'm just going to go ahead and click on samples. And as soon as I click on it, it's going to basically go ahead and create this new page for me where I get to see all the different sample data sets I could work with for today. So we have multiple sample data sets. I'm going to focus on using a retail analysis sample data set, which is basically the case study which we're going to be doing today, which is building a sales report for a fashion retail startup which has 2 chains, fast fashion chain which is called Fashions Direct, and another chain called Lindsay's, which is a boutique like chain which is basically kind of like something like Nordstrom or Gucci or something like that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and select retail analysis sample, and it's going to give me this pop-up which says this industry sample dashboard underlying report analyzes retail sales data. That's basically kind of like what I've already covered. I'm just going to go ahead and instead click on this button which says connect. So click on this button which says connect, and say it's importing your data in. It should take approximately, I would say, 30 seconds to maybe a minute. And if you have fast internet, maybe even lesser, okay? And it'll say your new dashboard is ready, okay? Just ignore that. We don't want to think too much about that. Instead, we want to go to this tab called Data Sets. So from your left panel, you'll notice you have a profile icon, okay? And it's called My Workspace. Select My Workspace. This is basically where you get an opportunity to go ahead and see all the different types of files within your own workspace, basically within your own Power BI account. So you'll notice you have 4 data types. The first is dashboards, the next one is reports, and the next one is workbooks, and then data sets. I'm going to focus on data sets first and then discuss the other 3. So what are data sets? Data sets are basically where you get data from, okay? So just imagine a normal Excel spreadsheet or a normal comma-separated value file. That's basically what a data set usually is like, okay? Or if you connect it to a database, then you'd also have that popping up out here. Now, you also have some other types of files. So you have workbooks. So if you've ever worked in Excel, you can create workbooks. So you can go ahead and upload your Excel workbooks out here as well. And you can also create reports, which is what we're going to focus on for today. So report is basically a multi-page report where you go ahead and discuss your business. And you can also create some interactions by which people can view a slightly more detailed aspect of your business. So for example, if we take a look at the report we're making today, you'll notice I can get to see a report for Alan Guinot. But as soon as I click on this, I could also get to quickly see a report for, let's say, Carlos Grillo. And it automatically changes and gives me a quick report on Carlos Grillo. So these interactive reports are really helpful for people who want to make quick business reports with respect to their organization. And we're going to go ahead and learn how to do this. And you can also go ahead and create dashboards. What's the difference between a dashboard and a report? It's kind of like the purpose of a dashboard is slightly different from a report. So usually reports are created to kind of see how your business has been performing so far, and you do a lot more data exploration. A dashboard is kind of like something where you want to get a quick insight into your business via a few quick visualizations. And usually this is what you want to see on the go. What's a report is something which you're going to spend a bit more time seeing, maybe on your own desktop and sitting down on a computer and then viewing it, okay? So the purpose of a report is to give you a detailed insight with respect to your business and you're exploring the data set, versus a dashboard is to just give you a quick insight with respect to how your business is performing, maybe for the current day or maybe for the current week, okay? So we're going to go ahead and click on data sets again. And to get started with creating a report, I'm going to go ahead and just click on this icon which has a bar graph with a plus icon on it. So you'll notice I have a data set called retail analysis sample. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this bar graph with a plus icon, and that's just going to allow us to create a new report. So I'm going to click on this button, okay, and it's going to allow us to create a new report. And as soon as you see a new report being loaded up, you'll notice that you have quite a few panels, okay? So the first leftmost panel which you have is kind of like the navigation options. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this or close this. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on hide the navigation pane. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to go ahead and just hide this filters panel because we don't really need it for today's workshop. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and just save my project, because that's very important whenever you're working with any online software. Please go ahead and always save your project. To save your project, go to the top left-hand corner and click on File and just click on Save this report. This is very important because you always want to keep saving your report just so that you don't lose your progress, just in case you lose internet or if by mistake like your browser crashes. I'm just going to go ahead and save my report, and I'm just going to call it Fashion Retail Sales Report, okay, and I'm then going to go ahead and save it. Once I've saved it, you'll notice that it just changed my view. It's taken me out of the edit view and it's gotten me into the reading view. So to go back to editing the report, just pay close attention to the top left hand corner again. You'll notice there's this button called Edit Report in this top black panel. I'm going to click on this Edit Report button. Once you've done that, what you'll notice is that you have this white empty canvas space, okay? This empty canvas is basically one page, okay? So a report can consist of multiple pages. So this is your first page, and you can notice in the bottom bar, you actually can create more pages from here. And you can also go ahead and rename your page. For the purpose of today's exercise, we're going to go ahead and create a page which allows us to get a quick overview of our district manager, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and rename my page, and I'm going to call it Individual District Manager Performance, okay? Individual. Okay, there we go. So I've gone ahead and made this new page. I've renamed it, okay? And I want to give you like 10 seconds to do this because this is time, like this may take you a bit of time. So take 10 seconds to do this, and then we'll actually go ahead and get started with making our report page. Okay. So from now on, I'm going to be speaking slightly slower, okay, just so that everyone can follow along with me. If you are okay with me speaking fast, you can make this video go at 1.5x, okay? So let's take a look at what we need to make for today. So if you take a look at this report, we have a few components to it. The first is we have a title. After that, we have a drop-down menu out here. This is also known as a slicer. And you can actually interact with this drop-down menu, and it automatically gives you a slice which you want to see. So you want to see a slice of information related to Carlos. You get to see all the information related to Carlos. And you also get a quick overview as to how Carlos's performance has been so far. And you can also go ahead and get a sales report where you actually see his sales so far for each month of the year. And you can also see whether he's actually been going ahead and reaching his goal, okay? And not just that, if you go ahead and even select a location, for example, on this map, if I select, let's say, the store right here, I can also go ahead and quickly get an insight as to how this particular store has been performing. And if I select another store, notice how my graph changes again and how these values change. You can also get a quick overview as to how the other store is performing as well. And this is really helpful because when you're working in a business, you want to quickly drill through information. This is what we call as a drill through. You want to drill through information and get to know how the business is performing. And maybe you want to go ahead and learn some more about the store. You want to see what are the most popular categories and how they've been performing. You can also just go ahead and hover over a particular bubble, and you can see this pop-up which comes up and tells you how your business is performing with respect to each store. Okay? Now, overall, this is going to take us approximately like 45 minutes to make, but we're going to go ahead and get started with making one component at a time. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with making the first and most important thing, which is a title for a report, which is individual district manager performance. So to do this, the first thing we need to do is we need to create something known as a text box. To create a text box, pay close attention to the top center of your screen. You'll notice there's this icon which has the letter A in it with a small rectangle. This is called text box. So go ahead and click on this text box button. And once you've done that, I'm just going to go ahead and write our page title, which is individual district manager performance. Okay. Once I've done this, I'm just going to go ahead and increase the text size to make it a bit more legible. So instead of text size of 10, I'll go ahead and use a text size of 28. And I'll just increase the width of my text box. And I'll decrease the height because we don't need so much space. Now, the next thing I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and add a drop-down menu. Okay. So if you take a look at our report out here, we need a drop-down menu so that we can select one district manager at a time. So let's say I want to go ahead and select Andrew Ma. I need a drop-down to allow me to do that. So the first thing we need to go ahead and do is we need to go ahead and create something known as a slicer. Okay, what is a slicer? A slicer is basically a option which gives the user a capability to actually select the information they want to see. So basically allowing the user to decide what slice of information they want to see. Do they want to see a slice of Andrew Ma, or do they want to see a slice of Carlos Grillo, or maybe of another district manager? Okay, so to create a slicer, what we need to go ahead and do is we need to pay attention to your rightmost panel called visualizations. Inside of your visualizations panel, you'll notice you have multiple types of visualizations. I want you to focus on the first column, fourth row. Go ahead and click on this icon, which kind of like, first column, fifth row. Go ahead and click on this icon, which kind of looks like a funnel, okay, with a small box behind it. That's your slicer visualization. Go ahead and select it. And once you've done that, it's going to basically show you an empty box, okay? And that is because you've not gone ahead and added in your slicer options, okay? So the slicer options in this scenario are basically going to be your district managers, okay? So to go ahead and add this information in, you need to pay attention to your rightmost panel called fields, okay? Inside of your fields panel, you'll notice that you have all the columns which you need, and they all been compartmentalized into 5 tables. So you have 5 tables. The first is called sales, the next one is district, next one is item, next one is store, and after that is time. Since we want the district manager, we're going to go to the district table. I'll go ahead and open this district table up, and under it you'll notice you have a column called district manager. So I'll just go ahead and drag this district manager column and pay close attention to what I'm doing. I'm keeping my slicer selected, it's currently empty. I'm dragging my district manager, and pay attention now to the visualizations panel. I'm just dragging it into this option called field, okay? So now you'll notice I have all my district managers listed here. I'll go ahead and repeat myself. I have this empty visualization, which is a slicer. It's currently selected, I know because it has a border around it. After that, I go to my fields panel. Under the table called district, there's a column called district manager. I'm going to go ahead and drag this column and put it into the option called field, okay? Once I've done that, the next thing I'm going to do is I need to change the manner in which it's being presented. Right now, you'll notice it's just a long list of information where I have all these different checkboxes. I want it to be a drop-down menu. To achieve this, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to pay close attention to the top right-hand corner of my visual. So you see the slicer visual. I'm going to pay attention to the top right hand corner. I'll just zoom in a bit so you can see it better. After that, I'll go ahead and click on this arrow. And you'll notice on this arrow you have two options, which is list and drop down. I want it to be a drop down menu, so I'll just go ahead and click on drop down. And now you'll notice my district managers have been put into one quick drop down menu. Okay, I'll repeat myself. I had the slicer visual created. After that, all I did was I went to this small arrow like at the top right hand corner, and I clicked on this arrow, and then I selected drop down. Once I've done that, I'll just push my slicer visual a bit towards the top. I'll also go ahead and reduce its width and height. Okay. Now, at the moment, you'll notice that we can select all our district managers at once. I don't want to give the user that option. I want them to just select maybe one district manager at a time. So to do this, I'm going to keep my slicer selected. Okay. After that, I'll go to my visualizations panel. And inside of my visualizations panel, you'll notice I have a paintbrush. Okay. I'll click on this paintbrush known as the format section. And under it, you'll notice there's an option called selection controls. I'll click on selection controls. And after I've done that, I'll just go ahead and select the option known as single select. That'll basically allow me to only select one district manager at a time. This allows you to basically ensure the user doesn't have any missteps, so doesn't select all the information at once and basically gets confused with what we're discussing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on single select. And now you'll notice you can only select one manager at a time. Okay. So now that I've gone ahead and selected single select, I'm going to go ahead and focus on the next component we need for our report page, which is a line chart. Okay. And the importance of this line chart is that we want to know as a business whether a district manager is actually meeting their sales targets. Okay. So we want to see whether they're meeting their sales goals and accordingly then review their performance. Okay. So to do this, what we're going to go ahead and do is, we're going to go to the visualizations panel, and under it, take a look at the first column, second row. There's an icon which is similar to a line chart. It's because you want to create a line chart that has the icon of a line chart. So select the line chart. And right now you'll notice that your line chart is empty. That is completely fine. I'm just going to go ahead and create my line chart and just make it a bit bigger so the height and width have increased, just so that it's a bit more visible to the user. You don't have a really small line chart which is not easy to interpret. So I made a nice big line chart. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and actually add in information to your line chart. Okay. So to do this, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to go ahead and focus on the field known as axis. Okay. So I've gone ahead and selected my line chart. Take a look at your visualizations panel. There's an option called axis. Okay. So what is axis? Axis is basically the option which allows you to go ahead and decide what's going to be on the axis of your line chart. So if you take a look out here at this line chart, your axis is basically your time. So you have Jan 2014, Feb 2014, March 2014, and so on. That's basically our axis for a line chart. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my panel, go to my fields panel. Under my fields panel, I'm going to go to the table known as time. So select the table known as time. And under it, you'll notice you have quite a few columns. You have date, fiscal month, fiscal year, month, and period. I'm going to go ahead and select date. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag my date column and add it into my axis. Okay. And at the moment, you'll notice that my date column has been added in. And it says date, year, quarter, month, day. Don't worry about this because this is a format which we do not desire. This is known as a date hierarchy format. We are not going to focus on this in today's introductory workshop. We instead going to use a much simpler format. So to change from a date hierarchy format to a traditional or normal date format, we need to go ahead and just zoom in a bit. And you'll notice there's a small arrow next to date. Select it. And once you've done that, you'll see an option which says date hierarchy. I'm just going to change from date hierarchy to date. And now you'll notice that you just have one column. It says date. Okay, there are no subcolumns to it. Now, we've gone ahead and added a date axis to our line chart, but you'll be like, Zosh, there's no line being created at the moment. Where do I see the line? So to see a line, we need to go ahead and add in some values, okay? And in this scenario, we want to see whether our district manager is actually meeting the sales targets, okay? So we need to go ahead and add in two types of values. The first is the sales value, and the next is the goal for the sales. So to do that, take a look at your fields panel and go to the first table called sales. open up this table, and under it, you'll notice there are a lot of columns, okay? There are a lot of business columns, business metric columns. I want you to focus on the column which is called this year's sales. You notice it has a traffic signal. This traffic signal is basically an icon which quickly gets your attention. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this column, and you'll notice that this column has quite a few subcolumns to it. It has value, goal, and status. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started by adding in the value column. So I'll add value, and notice how I'm dragging value into the option called values. Okay, it sounds a bit meta, but just go ahead and do as I'm doing it. So I've gone to my option called this year sales. Under this column is a subcolumn called value, and I've gone ahead and dragged it in. I'll do this again. Under the column called this year sales is a subcolumn called value. I'm just going to go ahead and drag it in and put it into values. Okay. And right now I can see my sales values for this year. So I can see how my sales have been for this district manager right from Jan 2014 all the way up to August 2014. Now I also want to go ahead and see whether they're actually meeting their goal. Okay. So to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and drag in my second column known as goal. I'll just go ahead and drag this goal subcolumn. I'm just going to go ahead and place it under this year's sales. Notice how I now have two lines. So the darker blue line is my goal and the light blue line is this year's sales. Now I want to go ahead and just change the colors, and I also want to go ahead and add in a few more details and just change the visual aesthetics. So to do this, I'm just going to keep my visualization selected. After that, I'll go to my visualizations panel and take a look at the paintbrush. Select the paintbrush, and under it what you'll notice is an option known as data colors. Select the data colors option. And from here, I will keep this year's sales as a light blue, but I'll change my this year's sales goal to a red, okay? Just so there's enough contrast. So I'll go ahead and select red, okay? And now you can go ahead and notice how your this year's sales goal line has changed in color. That just makes it easier for us to see how we're actually performing with respect to having light blue and dark blue as the colors. Now, the next thing you'll notice is right now we can only see our peaks and we can only eyeball our performance. Like for example, if I wanted to see how we're doing in April, I would only be able to eyeball our performance. Like I could say in April, it just seems like we're doing approximately 130,000 worth of sales. So in this scenario, we want to actually go ahead and add some data labels, okay, so that we don't eyeball the information and do guesswork. We instead get to actually see actual facts. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this option called data labels. You'll notice it has a switch. I'm just going to switch on our data labels. And now you'll notice that we can actually see our data labels for each of our peaks as well as for each of our Vs. So you'll notice that out here you can see 127K, 96K, and that way it's easier for us to know how we are doing with respect to whether we are reaching our goal or not. And now this line chart is communicating to us that Allen has actually not been meeting their sales goal for most of the year. So in January they did not meet it. In April as well, they did not meet their sales goal, as well as they did not meet their sales goal for June, and they suddenly began, they did not meet their sales goal for July, not for June, and they actually have been struggling even in August as well. So that's pretty concerning to us, and we were able to make this visualization in maybe 2 minutes and interpret this information. As compared to if we had a long spreadsheet of information, it would be much more difficult for us to actually understand how Allen was performing. Now, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to go ahead and create another visualization, which is a map. So right now, we are getting to see how the manager is performing with respect to all their stores. Maybe we want to go ahead and just create a map which allows us to see how individual stores are performing. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and go to the visualizations panel. Pay attention to the first column, fourth row. You notice there's this globe icon. Kind of looks like the old internet icon. If you're from the 90s, you remember this. So go ahead and select this icon, which is a globe. And this is going to allow us to create a map. I'm just going to go ahead and increase the size of our map, and it's going to be towards the right hand side. And it's going to look something like this, okay? So to go ahead and now make this map, we need to go ahead and add in some information to it. So for your map, you'll notice that it can take in quite a few options. It can take location, legend, latitude, longitude, size, and tooltips. So you're going to focus on the location option first. which is basically going to allow you to go ahead and put an address or a zip code or a city name or a country name, and it'll just add it onto the map. Okay. In this case study, we actually have access to the postal code of the stores. So if you go ahead and go to your fields panel, which is the rightmost panel, go to the table known as store. Okay, so that's your fourth table. Inside of this table, you'll notice you have a column called postal code, and we're actually going to go ahead and use our postal code today. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag our postal code column, and I'll place it inside of location. Okay. Now what you'll notice is you can get to see all your different stores on this map. Okay. And the way this is, like the way Power BI is doing this is it's taking this postal code and it's sending it to its Bing service. Okay, so it has a service called Bing Maps. It's sending it to Bing Maps, and Bing Maps is basically returning this map with all your different store locations. Now, at the moment, you'll notice all your different all your circles are the same size. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and ensure that your circle size is actually reflecting your total sales. Okay, like you don't want to just keep each circle the same size. You want it to actually be dependent on the total sales for a particular store. So that way you could actually understand which stores are performing well and which stores are not performing well. So to go ahead and do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and scroll a bit further down. So a bit up, not down. So I'll scroll a bit up and I'll go to my table called sales. Under my sales table, you'll notice I have a column called this year sales, and under it we have quite a few subcolumns which are value, goal, and status. I'm just going to go ahead and drag the column called value, and I'll add it into the size option. What you'll now notice is that the size of your bubbles have changed, and the size of your bubble is actually encoding the information of your sales. So now the size of your bubble is big if you have more sales, and the size of your bubble is a bit small if it has less sales. Okay. Now at the moment, if you take a look at this map, it's a bit busy. Okay, there are a lot of colors on it, and it's a bit difficult to interpret this information. So if you want to change to a different map theme or a different map style, so to do this, keep your map selected, go to your visualizations panel, and take a look at your paintbrush icon. Click on it, and there's an option called Map Styles. Select Map Styles, and rather than using the road theme, we're going to go ahead and use something a bit simpler and cleaner, which is grayscale. Notice immediately how all the noise which was there earlier has been removed, so it's easier for us to get a better understanding of how our business is performing as a whole. Okay, and now take a look at how these interactions work. If I go ahead and click on a particular store, notice how my line chart immediately gets modified to show me how that particular store is performing. This is really helpful, and this is what we call as a drill through feature. I'm just going to click out because I want to go back to our normal view. And now we need to add in a few more components. Okay, so we are seeing how our stores are doing, and we're getting to see how our district manager is doing overall with respect to meeting their goals. We also want to add in a few more components, which are basically some key statistics about the sales manager. So with respect to what are this year's sales so far, so we can actually get to see a number which represents the sales, as well as the gross margin this year, as well as seeing the percentage of gross margin which they've had this year. So for us to do this, we're going to go ahead and create something known as a multi-row card. Okay, so to create a multi-row card, I'm just going to go ahead and deselect all my visualizations. This is very important whenever you're adding a new visualization. Ensure nothing else is selected. So I'm going to click out. After that, I'll go to my visualizations panel. Pay close attention to the fourth column, fourth row. Sorry, not fourth column, fifth row. Fifth column, fourth row. Sorry about that. And select this option called multi-row card. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. And you'll notice that we have this multi-card row visualization created. It's kind of empty right now. That's fine. We'll add some information into it. And I'll just go ahead and make it a bit wider. And I'll maybe reduce its height a bit. And if you notice that your line chart is maybe a bit too tall, you can go ahead and just reduce the line chart's height. Okay? So as to give your multi-row card some more space. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my multi-row card selected. And we do need to add some information into it. So the information we need to go ahead and add in is, first of all, the sales. So keep your multi-row card selected. Go to your fields panel. Once you've gone to your fields panel, pay close attention to this year's sales. Under it, there's a subcolumn called value. Okay, so this year's sales has this traffic icon next to it, this traffic signal icon. go ahead and select the subcolumn called value and just drag it in. So now we've gone ahead and added in this year's sales. We want to add in a few other metrics as well. So we're going to go ahead and add in total units this year. Okay, and if you want to, you can even avoid doing this. Let's just focus on two more rather than 4. So let's go ahead and add in gross margin this year. And add in one more unit, which is maybe the goal, or I could even go ahead and add in gross margin this year and add in the percentage. So let's go ahead and add in gross margin this year percentage. And now we've gone in and added 3 key metrics which tell us how the business is performing. Okay. Now the next thing I'd like to do is I maybe want to just add some quick contrast so that our values pop out a bit more. So I'm going to keep my multi-row card selected, and I'll go to the paintbrush icon in my visualizations panel. Under it, you'll notice we have an option called data labels. Okay, I'll select data labels, and I'm just going to go ahead and increase the size of our data labels. So you'll notice at the moment our font size for each of these numbers is pretty small. I'm just going to go ahead and increase it to a font size of 16. Okay, so notice how the numbers are a bit bigger now and they're easier to interpret. Next thing I want to do is I want to make the colors pop a bit more. So to do that, I'll go ahead and click on color, and I'll just change the text color from black to blue. Notice how it pops out a bit more. Okay, so now that we've gone ahead and done that, we've just gone ahead and added in one more component known as a multi-row card. This allows us to quickly evaluate the district manager with using these 3 key performance indicators, such as this year sales, the gross margin this year, and gross margin this year percentage. Now I'm just going to go ahead and save my report. Like I mentioned earlier, it's very important to save your report whenever you're working with any online software. Now the last component we want to add is known as a tooltip. Okay, and tooltips are extremely helpful in certain situations. So for example, right now when I hover over a particular store, I can only see the postal code and this year's sales. I may want to go ahead and actually get some more insights with respect to the store and get a quick overview of how the store is maybe performing. So we can go ahead and add something known as a custom tooltip. So here's an example of what we could do. So right now if I'm hovering over a particular store, let's say the store right here, you'll notice how I can also see what are the most popular categories. So I can see the home category is the most popular, and I can also notice how we had the most amount of sales for it. Okay, this is really helpful as we can go ahead and take a look at different stores and see what are the popular categories in each of our different stores. Okay, and you'll notice that trends kind of change sometimes with respect to different districts as well as different stores, and you'll notice here your sales are also slightly different. So this is overall really helpful quick insight we could get into a particular store. So what you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to go ahead and add a new page. Okay, so the way we make tooltips is by adding new pages into a Microsoft Power BI report. So take a look at your bottom bar. You'll notice you have this yellow icon or yellow button, okay, with a plus icon in it. Click on it, and you'll now go ahead and create a new page. I'm going to go ahead and call this page a tooltip. Okay, I'll just make it a bit more detailed, and I'll say sales tooltip. Now that I've done this, I've just created a new page. Okay, we need to give Power BI some additional instructions as well. So usually when you create a new page in Power BI by default, it's just a report page. Okay, that means it just shows up like a traditional slide in a particular report you're viewing. So you need to actually go ahead and tell Power BI that this page is actually a bit special, and it's actually a tooltip page. That means this page can go ahead and show up on other pages. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go to your visualizations panel and pay close attention to your paintbrush icon, which is basically the format icon. Click on it. Once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and click on page information. Once you've selected page information, you're going to go ahead and switch on this option known as tooltip. Okay, that's basically telling Power BI that this is not a regular page. This is a very special page. This is a tooltip page that allows it to show up on other pages. Now, you don't want a large page to show up on a large page. That means you don't want a letter page to go ahead and show up on another letter page. It would be kind of like overwhelming to see such a large visual. So you want to reduce your page size. So I'm going to go ahead and click on page size. And under page size, you'll notice you have an option called type, which basically allows you to quickly modify your page size. So I can go from 16:9 to 4:3 to letter to tooltip as well as to custom. Now I'm going to go ahead and use Power BI's preset size, which is called Tooltip. But if you want, you can also use custom and create a custom size. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Tooltip. And you'll be like, Joshua, my page size has not changed as such. It actually has changed. You just need to go ahead and change a setting known as a view setting. So pay close attention to your top left-hand corner. You'll notice there's an option called View. Click on this option called View and click on Actual Size. Once you click on Actual Size, you'll get to see the actual size of the page as well as a pop-up, okay? So the next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and tell Power BI what information we want to put out here. So we got to add a few visuals in. So I'm going to go ahead and add a bar chart. So to add my bar chart, I'm just going to go ahead and click on this option called bar chart. So it's my first column, first row. Click on this visual. Once you've done that, just go ahead and reduce the size of the bar chart a bit. Okay. And now inside of this bar chart, I maybe want to go ahead and add in some information. So the first thing I want to add into my bar chart is maybe I want to go ahead and add in my axis, okay, which is my categories. So go to your table known as item, okay? Inside your item table, you'll notice you have a column known as category. So I'll just repeat myself. I went to the fields panel. After that, I went to my table known as item, and under it, I went to this column called category. I'm going to go ahead and drag this column called category into my axis option. Okay, so this is basically going to show up on the axis of my bar chart. Now again, you'll notice that right now you don't have any bars. That's because you need to add in some values. So you want to see our total sales for each of our items. To do that, scroll up, okay, and go to your sales table. Under your sales table, go to this year's sales option. So you'll notice that has a traffic signal. Go to a subcolumn called value and drag the subcolumn and put it under values. Okay? And now you can see your total sales for each of your categories. Okay, I'll repeat myself. I went to my fields panel. Under it, I went to my sales table. Under my sales table, I went to my column called this year's sales. Under it, there's a subcolumn called value. I went ahead and dragged value into values. And now I get to see a bar chart where I can actually get to interpret the sales performance for each of my different categories. Now right now my visual is a bit overwhelming because you can get to see like you have this unnecessary x-axis table which says this year's sales. Our title is already saying that, so this is just like redundant, and also saying category out here. We can understand this is a category, okay? So we're going to just remove this redundancy just to make it a bit more easier to read, because as it is we're working in a constrained space, so we want to make it as legible as possible. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep my bar chart selected. Go to the paintbrush. Under your paintbrush, you'll notice you have a y-axis option. Select the y-axis option and just scroll down, and you'll notice there's an option called text size. I'll reduce text size to 8 points. And I'll just scroll down a bit further below, and you'll notice there's an option which says title on. I'll just go ahead and switch off my title for my y-axis. And notice how it's already a bit cleaner. And I'll go to my x-axis after that. Under my x-axis, I'll just scroll down a bit more, and I'll go ahead and switch off the x-axis title. Okay, it's already become a lot cleaner. Now I'm just going to go ahead and close my y-axis option as well as my x-axis option. And now I'm just going to go ahead and focus on data labels. What are data labels? They help us get to know the value of each bar out here. So I'll go ahead and switch on my data labels. And now I can see the value of each bar. So this is 4.5 million, this is 3.6 million, this is 3.1 million, and so on. Now, the next thing we want to go ahead and do is maybe you want to go ahead and just reduce your font size for your title out here. I think it's a bit too big. So I'll just go ahead and select my title. And I'll just go ahead and reduce the text size a bit. Okay? Once I've done that, voila, I've got a bar chart. And now if you want, you can just make the bar chart occupy the entire space of your tooltip. Okay? Now, I've gone ahead and created my tooltip, but I've not told Power BI when I want this tooltip to show. So right now, I've just gone ahead and created it, but I needed to instruct Power BI as to when this tooltip should show up. Okay? So deselect everything on your page. Just click out. Okay, so don't keep any visualization selected. Click out of it. And now, pay attention to your visualizations panel. Inside of your visualizations panel, you'll notice you have a section known as Tooltip. Okay? This section basically allows you to instruct Power BI as to when you want this sales tooltip to show up. We want the sales tooltip to show up when we are hovering over a sales bubble. So if you take a look out here, when I hover over this bubble right here, I wanted to show up and tell me how, like, we wanted to go ahead and like show us how the store is performing, and this bubble size is defined by the sales. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on my sales tooltip, and now pay close attention to your panel called fields. Under your fields panel, go to your sales table. Under your sales table, there's a column called this year sales, and under that there's a sub column called value. Go ahead and drag in the column called value and just put it under drag tooltip fields here. So what you're telling Power BI is that whenever you hover over data which represents this year's sales, you're going to go ahead and show this pop up. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and save my report again, and I'm going to go to my individual district manager performance. Once I come here, if I hover over a particular store, notice how I now get this tooltip, and it tells me how different categories in the store are performing. Okay. Now, the next thing we want to go ahead and do is we want to go ahead and share this report with maybe our boss or maybe our friends or our family, just to show them what we made today. So I'm going to go ahead and discuss how you can do that. So the first thing you need to do is you need to ensure that your report is being well made and people only see the relevant pages. Okay. So we don't want people to actually go ahead and see the sales tooltip page, because that doesn't have information which is relevant to them. So I'll just go ahead and right click, and I'll say hide page. That basically will hide the page when you publicly share it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and click on Command S again. And now I'm just going to go ahead and show you how you can share this with your friends. Okay, there are multiple ways you could do this. So the first way you could go ahead and do this is you could click on File. So go ahead to the top left hand corner, click on File, and you'll notice you can publish this to the web. That means you can actually make this a website, and you can share this website with your friends, okay, as well as with your boss. Maybe not with your friends if this is for an actual company. And you can also save it as a PowerPoint presentation as well as a PDF. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and make a PowerPoint presentation with different bar graphs and like different pages, you can go ahead and do this. Traditionally, when you make a business intelligence report, it consists of multiple pages. Okay, so that therefore when you would want to maybe export it to PowerPoint and maybe share it with your boss or maybe with the other stakeholders in your organization. I'm going to go ahead and select Publish to Web. Okay, and note, not everyone has this feature enabled. If you're a University of Washington student, you should have this enabled. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click on Embed in a public website. I'll click on Create Embed Code. I'll click on Publish. Give it a minute to publish, so it should take approximately, I would say, 30 seconds to create. And notice how you have this link. You can send this link via email or even via Messenger or like WhatsApp or whatever communication tool you use. So let's go ahead and take a look at how it will show. I'll just copy this, open it up in a new tab, and now you'll notice this is a website. Okay, so it's loading the data. And now let's take a look at what we've just made. We've made a report where we can go ahead and see the sales performance with respect to a district manager. So if I want to see the sales performance for, let's say, Brad, you can select Brad. And I can see how the visuals have automatically changed to just showcase the information relevant to Brad. Now I can also see how Brad is reaching his goals or not reaching his goals. And I can see some key performance indicators which help me evaluate his performance. Now I may hover over a particular store. When I hover over a particular store, I can go ahead and see what are the popular categories and the sales for each category via a bar graph. And now if I click on a particular store, I can also quickly go ahead and see how this particular store is performing with respect to reaching its goal, as well as the sales it's had so far, as well I can see how my key performance metrics have changed just to reflect how the store is performing. I can click out, and then I can repeat the same cycle to pay attention to whichever district manager I want to. And if I want to, I can also go ahead and share this. Pay attention to the bottom right hand corner. I can click on the share icon, and I can share it via different services such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as via email. Okay, so I'm now going to go ahead and teach you how to do a few more things in your spare time. So if you want to go ahead and add in a few more custom visuals, like I mentioned, like how Power BI allows you to import custom visuals, the way you can do that is by going to your visualizations panel, clicking on these three dots, okay, and clicking on the option which says Get More Visuals. Click on the option which says Get More Visuals, okay, and it's going to open up a visual app store for you in a way. So you can see all these different visuals which you can import into Power BI and use on your own. One of my favorites is known as Starburst visualization. I really like it. So, whoops, I may have misspelled it. But it's one of my favorite ones. If I spelled it correctly, it would show up. Okay, it's called a sunburst, not a starburst. My bad. A sunburst visualization. It's really helpful when I'm trying to explore categories which have multiple subcategories to them. Then it's really helpful to me. And you can go ahead and find other visualizations of your choice. Do explore it. It's really helpful. Now, I'm going to go ahead and discuss what other things you could do in Power BI after this workshop today. So go ahead and share this report with your friends and parents. Add more pages to it as well. You can add a page to evaluate a particular store or a particular category of items, okay? Try to play with some of the other sample data sets on Power BI. So if you remember, when we were making our sales report, there was an option called Get Data. If I click on the Get Data option from the bottom left-hand corner, okay, whoops, you'll notice there's an option called Samples. If I click on Samples, you have a variety of data sets you could potentially work with. And if you go into the Power BI website, they even have some ideas with respect to how you can play with these data sets. Apart from that, you also may want to go ahead and add this project to your portfolio as well as to your resume. Recruiters are always looking for people who know how to use Power BI. All the things I taught you today cover almost the key essentials you need to know with respect to Power BI, especially the online service. I went and covered all the different types of data visualizations you could create, as well as how you could create tooltips. Approximately 85% of people who I know who use Power BI don't actually know how to create those custom tooltips which I showed you. So that's a really cool tool, and you can actually show it to a recruiter and impress them. And apart from this, go ahead and continue learning Power BI in your own spare time if you're interested in data visualization. They have some amazing tutorials on their Power BI learning website. So if you go to their Power BI website, there's a section called Learn. Click on it and go to Overview. And they have a variety of ways you can actually continue learning this tool. Okay, I'll put a link to this in the description as well. And that's it from me for today. Okay, thank you so much for coming in. And if you have a question, go ahead and put it in a comment down below or connect with me on LinkedIn. I've put my LinkedIn in the description. And thank you so much for watching. Okay, take care and have a good, safe day. Goodbye.